My fiance's prank almost cost me my life, and now he wants me back after my revenge plan backfired on him. I'm still reeling, a mix of terror, anger, and a twisted sense of satisfaction coursing through me. I, 30F, was engaged to Mark, 32M, for 2 years. We'd been together for 5, and honestly, I thought he was the one. He was charming, funny, attentive, everything I thought I wanted. We had our quirks, sure. He loved pranks, and I tolerated them. Mostly. I'm not a fan of jump scares or anything that makes me feel out of control, which he knew. But he always assured me his pranks were harmless, just a bit of fun. He'd hide my keys, swap the sugar for salt in my coffee once, which was not fun, or replace the toothpaste with mashed potatoes. Annoying, yes, but not dangerous. Also, I thought our wedding was set for next summer. We'd picked out the venue, started the guest list, even had a rough idea for the honeymoon. Everything was perfect, or so it seemed. I was on cloud 9. I had a demanding job as a graphic designer, and I often worked late. Mark, on the other hand, had a more flexible schedule as a freelance web developer, which meant he was often home before me. This particular evening, I was working on a huge client project, a major rebrand that was eating up all my time and energy. I was stressed, exhausted, and just wanted to go home, eat some takeout, and crashed. I finally left the office around 9 p.m. It was a cold, rainy night, and the drive home was miserable. All I could think about was getting into my warm pajamas and snuggling under a blanket. When I pulled into our driveway, the house was dark. That wasn't unusual. Mark sometimes went to bed early if he had an early client meeting. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside, immediately hit by a strange, unsettling quiet. Usually, I'd hear the hum of the refrigerator or the soft creak of the house settling, but it was just silent and cold. Much colder than it should have been inside, that I shrugged it off as my imagination, probably just overtired. I kicked off my shoes and walked into the living room, fumbling for the light switch. As my hand brushed against the wall, I heard a faint scratching sound from the kitchen. My heart gave a little lurch, but I told myself it was probably just the cat, Mittens, who often got into things. I called out, "Mark? Mittens?" No answer. The silence was starting to get to me. I finally found the light switch and flipped it, bathing the living room in a soft glow. Nothing did. I walked towards the kitchen, the scratching sound growing a little clearer. It sounded deliberate, like something was being dragged. I was starting to feel a prickle of fear. We lived in a fairly safe neighborhood, but you never know. I grabbed a heavy ceramic vase from the hallway table, my hands trembling slightly. As I rounded the corner into the kitchen, I froze. The kitchen was in utter chaos. Cabinets were open, food was strewn across the counters and floor, and worst of all, there were claw marks on the refrigerator and bite marks on a bag of flour. And then I saw it. A shadowy figure hunched over near the pantry, its back to me. It was large, much larger than Mittens, and it was making a low growling sound. My breath hitched. My mind immediately went to the worst case scenario. A wild animal had gotten in, or worse, an intruder. I gripped the vase tighter, my knuckles white. "Who's there?" I yelled, my voice cracking despite my best efforts to sound brave. The figure slowly turned, and that's when I saw the eyes. 2 glowing red pinpricks in the darkness. My blood ran cold. This wasn't Mittens. This wasn't even an animal. It was something else. My scream was lodged in my throat. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My entire body was locked in a state of pure, unadulterated terror. Then, the figure lunged. I instinctively threw the vase, a desperate, pathetic attempt to defend myself. It shattered against the wall with a deafening crash, and the figure let out a guttural roar. I stumbled backward, tripping over something on the floor, and hit my head hard against the corner of the counter. A blinding flash of pain, and then darkness. I woke up to the smell of antiseptic and the dull throb in my head. I was in a hospital bed, a bandage wrapped around my forehead. My vision was blurry, and I felt disoriented. My mom was sitting beside me, her face pale and streaked with tears. "Oh, thank God, you're awake," she sobbed, clutching my hand. "Mom, what happened?" My voice was raspy. "Mark found you," she said, her voice laced with an emotion I couldn't quite decipher. "He called 911. You had a concussion and a deep gash from hitting your head. The doctors say you're lucky. You could have been much worse." She trailed off, her eyes welling up again. Mark. The name brought a rush of confusing memories. The dark house, the scratching, the glowing eyes, the lunge. It all came flooding back. When Mark finally came into the room, he looked genuinely distressed. He had dark circles under his eyes, and his face was drawn. He apologized profusely, holding my hand, telling me how terrified he was when he found me. He explained that he had set up a prank. He'd bought a ridiculously realistic werewolf mask and costume, complete with glowing red eyes, and planned to jump out at me when I came home. He'd even scattered some flour and opened some cabinets to make it look like a break-in, to heighten the scare. He was going to reveal himself after a few seconds, laugh it off, and then would have a good story that he kept repeating that he never, ever intended for me to get hurt. He said he was just trying to be funny, to lighten the mood after my stressful week. He'd gone to bed early, thinking I'd be home much later, and then woken up to the sound of me screaming and the vase shattering. He rushed out and found me unconscious that I just stared at him, my mind trying to process what he was saying. A prank? A werewolf costume? He thought that was funny? I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, a sickening blend of relief that it wasn't a real monster, and furious betrayal that it was him. "You almost killed me, Mark," I whispered, my voice trembling. He flinched. "No, baby, no. I swear, I never meant for this to happen. It was a stupid joke. I'm so sorry." But sorry wasn't going to cut it. I had been truly, utterly terrified. I thought I was going to die. I still had nightmares about those glowing red eyes. My head hurt constantly, and I had to take time off work. The trauma was real. I couldn't look at him without seeing the monster. The betrayal. My family was furious. My dad, a usually calm and collected man, threatened to press charges. My mom just cried. My best friend, Sarah, a fierce advocate for me, told Mark exactly what she thought of him, which was not much. They all told me to dump him, and I did. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I knew I couldn't marry someone who would put my life at risk for a joke. I moved out of our shared apartment while he was at work, staying with Sarah for a few weeks. I blocked his number, unfriended him on social media, and tried to erase him from my life. He sent me countless emails, left desperate voicemails on Sarah's phone, even tried to show up at my parents' house. I refused to see him. The trust was shattered beyond repair, but the anger, the fear, the feeling of utter helplessness, it festered. I couldn't just move on. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those red eyes. Every creak of a floorboard, every rustle outside the window, sent my heart racing. I started seeing a therapist who helped me understand that what Mark did wasn't just a bad prank. It was a profound violation of trust, and it had left me with significant trauma. You can replace this text with any text you wish. You can either write in this text box or paste your own text here. Try different languages and voices. Change the speed and the pitch of the voice. You can even tweak the SSML, speech synthesis markup language, to control how the different sections of the text sound. Click on SSML above to give it a try. Enjoy using text-to-speech, and then a thought sparked. Revenge. Not violent revenge, not illegal revenge, but something that would make him understand, even just a little, what it felt like to be completely out of control, utterly terrified, and betrayed by someone you trusted. Mark was obsessed with his car, a vintage Mustang he'd spent years restoring. He babied that car more than he ever babied me. He had a meticulous schedule for its maintenance, always kept it spotless, and never let anyone else drive it. It was his pride and joy, his ultimate status symbol. He often parked it in a public garage near his apartment, claiming the street parking wasn't safe enough that I started researching. I found out where he usually parked it, the times he typically left for client meetings, and the days he had his car detailed. I knew he was extremely paranoid about anyone touching his car, let alone damaging it. My plan was simple, yet insidious. I wouldn't touch the car itself. Instead, I focused on creating an illusion of damage, a slow, creeping psychological torture. I knew he had a subscription to a luxury car detailing service that came to his garage every 2 weeks. This was my window that I invested in some high-quality, ultra-realistic car decals designed to mimic various types of damage. Spiderweb cracks, deep scratches, even a slightly dented look. The kind of decals that, from a distance, looked absolutely real. I also bought a small, discreet GPS tracker, the kind you can stick inside a wheel well, just to keep tabs on its location and confirm my theory about his parking habits. The first step was to plant the seed of doubt. One night, when I knew he'd be home and asleep, I snuck into the garage where he parked. It was late, and thankfully, mostly empty. I carefully applied a small, hairline crack decal to the windshield, just on the passenger side, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. I made sure to leave no fingerprints. The next morning, I knew he'd see it. He was meticulous about his car. He'd probably spend hours staring at it, trying to figure out if it was real, how it got there. He'd probably dismiss it as a stone chip, something minor. But the seed would be planted 2 weeks later, just before his detailing appointment. I returned. This time, I added a slightly larger, more prominent scratch decal on the driver's side door. It wasn't a deep gouge, just a superficial scuff mark. Again, carefully applied, no trace that I imagined him coming out, seeing it, his heart sinking. He'd probably think the detailers missed it, or maybe someone brushed against it in the parking lot. He'd be annoyed, but still, manageable. He might even try to buff it out that I continued this pattern for a couple of months. Every 2 weeks, like clockwork, a new blemish would appear. A small dent on the bumper, a chip on a headlight, a faded patch on the paint job. Always subtle, always plausible, always just enough to drive him slowly insane. I even sprayed a tiny amount of a specific, pungent car air freshener, the kind he hated, inside the vents once, just to mess with his senses. He was a creature of habit and sensory control, and I was systematically dismantling both that I knew this was working because Sarah, who occasionally ran into his friends, reported that Mark was becoming increasingly agitated. He was complaining about vandals targeting his car, about the detailing service missing things, and about how he was losing his mind trying to keep his car perfect. He even started spending extra money on additional security for the garage, installing a camera near his parking spot, which, of course, I avoided. My grand finale was planned for the day before his next major service appointment, a full detailing and paint correction he'd booked. This time, I went all out. I applied a series of spider web cracks across the entire rear windshield, a significant dent on the trunk, and several long, deep scratches running down both sides of the car. I even used a special decal that made it look like a bird had left a massive, corrosive dropping on the hood, eating through the paint. This wasn't subtle. This was a full-blown assault on his automotive sanctuary. I knew this would push him over the edge. The next day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to. It was Mark. His voice was trembling, barely coherent. He was sobbing, practically hyperventilating. My car, it's destroyed. Someone just ruined it. Everything. The paint, the windows, the hood. It's all gone. I don't understand. I don't understand how this happened. It's like it's been happening for months, but worse, so much worse. I just went to get it detailed, and they told me it was beyond repair. The cost of fixing it, it's more than the car is worth. They said it looks like acid damage. I'm ruined. I'm absolutely ruined. He went on and on, his voice cracking, his distress palpable. He sounded exactly how I felt in the hospital, but instead of physical pain, it was pure emotional agony. He rambled about how he'd worked so hard, how he'd put everything into that car, how it was his legacy. He talked about how he couldn't believe someone would do this to him, how he felt targeted, violated, helpless, and then he said it. "I know this is probably karma, isn't it? For what I did to you. I deserve this, don't I? I truly do. I made you feel like this, didn't I? Out of control, terrified, like your world was falling apart. Please, just tell me, was this you? Did you do this? I need to know. I can't live like this, not knowing." A chill went down my spine. He knew. Or at least, he suspected. My carefully crafted revenge, my psychological torture, had hit its mark. He finally understood. "What are you talking about, Mark?" I said, feigning innocence, my voice flat. "I haven't seen you, or your car, in months. Why would I do something like that?" Because you're the only one who would understand," he choked out. "The only one who would know how to get to me like this. This isn't just random vandalism. This is calculated. This is how I made you feel, isn't it? Trapped, helpless, like everything you cared about was being destroyed." He was right. He completely understood. And in that moment, hearing the raw pain and regret in his voice, I felt a strange mix of vindication and something else. A flicker of something akin to pity. He finally got it. He finally understood the terror, the violation, the sense of helplessness that I didn't confirm or deny it. I just listened. He continued to beg for my forgiveness, to tell me how much he missed me, how he'd learned his lesson, how he'd never pull another prank again, how he'd change for me. He promised to get help, to go to therapy, to become the man I deserved. He asked if there was any chance, even a tiny one, that we could try again. And that's where the unexpected part came in. As he spoke, something in me shifted. The intense anger, the burning desire for revenge, it started to dissipate. Not completely, but enough to make me pause. My plan had worked perfectly. He had experienced a fraction of what I went through, and it had broken him, but now he wanted me back. And I realized, with a jolt, that while my revenge had given me a sense of closure, it hadn't truly healed me. The thought of getting back with him, of trying to rebuild something from the ashes of betrayal and terror, felt impossible. But also, a small, tiny part of me, the part that still remembered the good times, the charming Mark I'd fallen in love with, wondered if it was truly possible for him to change. I told him I needed time, that I was still hurt, still dealing with the trauma, and that an apology, however sincere, couldn't erase what he did. I told him he needed to focus on himself, on understanding why he thought it was okay to put me through that, and on getting genuine help. I didn't tell him about the decals. I didn't tell him how I knew about his car. I just listened, and then I hung up. Now I'm sitting here, staring at my phone, wondering what to do. My revenge was sweet, devastatingly effective. He lost his prized possession, and his pride along with it. But now he's broken, and is turning to me, the architect of his misery, for solace and forgiveness. Part of me wants to just disappear again, to let him wallow in the consequences of his actions and my retaliation. But another part, a smaller, more conflicted part, wonders if there's any hope for redemption for someone who truly understands the depth of their mistake. I'm not sure if I want him back, not even a little bit, but I'm also surprised by the complex emotions I'm feeling now that my revenge has played out. I'm still seeing my therapist, and she says I need to focus on my own healing, regardless of what Mark does or says. But this feels like a twisted chapter one never anticipated. My revenge plan, meant to give me closure, has unexpectedly brought him back into my orbit, shattered and begging for forgiveness. And now, I'm left with the aftermath, unsure of how to navigate this bizarre and painful new reality. Have I gone too far? Should I have just walked away and let karma handle it? Or did I do what was necessary to make him finally understand? And if he truly has learned his lesson, is there any path forward? Or is this relationship irrevocably broken? I feel like I've won the battle, but I'm losing the war in my own head. I just want to be free of this entire mess.